So we're on Ultimatum episode 6, the second season. So MGK, after his little confrontation with Alex, he comes back to Kat and he's just really upset about what happened with Alex. He was not having being disrespected and being called a whipping boy. And he openly thinks that Alex wants to leave with Roxanne. He is very insecure about this. He says it's happened before and it's going to happen again, basically.
He knows exactly what he's talking about right now. He's like, I've been here. People come to me. They tell me all kinds of things. They hit me up in my messages. No, he's just completely in denial mode. There is absolutely no way to him that Roxanne could be talking about anything else other than work. And so there's no way that Alex could gather that Roxanne disrespects him. But Alex was saying what everyone else was feeling and knowing at the time. We don't really need specifics to know that Roxanne, unfortunately, doesn't seem to respect MGK. But he's in denial currently, and he is super mad.
He's definitely in denial. And Kat decides to open up and let him know that Alex's parents texted her to tell her that Roxanne doesn't really like him.
Yeah, she said it's pretty clear that Roxanne doesn't like her current partner.
Yes. Which I would get that too from that meeting as well. It seemed like she was very easy to throw him under the bus, but then praise Alex at the same time, but put both of their original partners down. She did it with her own parents. She did it with his parents. And I wonder how MGK feels watching it back because, it's not the first thing he goes to is everyone's a liar because there's no way.
Yeah.
Roxanne only speaks about work. So there's no way, which I can see that, but at the same time, like she's putting you down about work. So.
Impossible.
So Antonio then calls Roxanne. He's like, I need to talk to her. He calls her and she immediately pauses for a really long time when he says what Alex said to him. So that made me think like she said it, or she either said it or she made it obvious. I mean, even watching her scenes, it was obvious she didn't really like respect him. And you can make that assumption if you were with her long enough talking to her at that period of time that Antonio was just not it for her. She was not a fan of his work. It really was only that. She had nothing else to complain about. She said, he does little things for me. He does all the things she likes, the opening the doors, the setting her alarms, taking care of her, but he doesn't have stable finances. And it's just one of those things where it's like, girl, sometimes those things just come. Like, money runs out, you remake money. It's just a cycle. And that's just not what marriage is about, is being a business partner. Like if you really want a true business partner, go into business with Alex,
True.
So it's weird. So MGK calls Roxanne and then everything hits the fan. It was a long silence. And then she said on the phone in response to him saying, oh, he says you don't respect me. She says, we talk about things our partners lack, which was not a denial. That was a,
to me, what I heard when she said that was, we talk about things we don't find in our partner, which is respect. That's it. That was a full-throated admission to me when she said that. And I think she meant to admit it, but she didn't want to say those specific words because even in the next episodes, they have a hard time with like the word disrespect. But
so she tells him to come talk to her because all of a sudden she's upset with Alex because he took whatever she's been saying to him in confidence, or even though it's all on the show, like either way, your man's gonna see this. And I'm sure even a producer might have went up to Alex and was like, it's getting stale. So gone. Someone's got to give at some point. There needed to be something because this is mainly what's going on in this episode.
As soon as Roxanne says, we need to talk in person, what does MGK do? The not whipping boy. He throws his shoes on and runs right over. Physically runs.
I wish I could grab that clip from Netflix, but no, I can't. But just go back and watch him run. And it's just the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, they have a legit clip of him just outside running up a street to wherever Roxanne is. She could have been 25 miles away. He would have been. MGK is on the way, running, feet a kicking. That's when we got Roxanne confronting Alex about the whipping boy comment.
Yes. So she just tries to catch him in this trap while she's wearing her Hugh Hefner pajamas, by the way. She's condescending and she's like really short with him, but she's like, so how was your night? She's trying to bait him into talking about it first because I think this is a test for her. If he talks about it, then he's still a good person. He at least is honest or whatever. At least he'll be honest with business. So Alex just kind of says like, yeah, it was good. We were opening up to each other, blah, blah, blah. Kind of start getting into it. Like she just confronts him with it. Like, yeah, he called me. He said this. And Alex is like, yeah, I said it to him.
Doesn't ever regret what he says. He says things for a reason, and that's the way he feels. And he's pretty stubborn, it seems, in his opinion. So he was like, yeah, that's what happened. But she like sat herself up on the countertop, and I think she like put herself in a higher position, and I think she was ready to kind of put him in his place, she thought. But I mean, these two really have met their match with each other. I think that this argument was pretty toxic, honestly, but I think it shows a lot of how both of these people argue, and they tend to just try to like shut down and dismiss their partners, and they both were doing this to each other at the same time. And it was kind of funny to watch because they were both like calling each other's bluff, and they're like, no, I'm not gonna, like, is this how you argue with so and so? Because I'm not gonna be that way. And then they just like dished it back out. It was a horrible argument, but entertaining to watch.
I don't know, because she was also on the other side doing kind of the same thing to him. So I don't really understand why it was only okay if she did it. So Roxanne was just giving me like immature vibes, but it was a super immature argument. And at the end, she starts calling him fake, complains about little things like the door opening thing again for the fourth time. And then he brought up work against her, and that's when she glitched. I don't know if you saw that, but that's when Roxanne glitched, is when Alex threw work in her face that all she does is work.
Yeah. Yeah. And she can't even fathom a life without work. So I don't think she has any capacity, the brain just shut off at that moment.
So then we go over to Ryan and Trey. And again, I don't have anything really much about them on here because their scenes get the whole wife swap on that end. It just gets stale at this point. But Trey and Ryan sit down in bed and talk about getting along versus everybody else, basically. They just say that they're getting along the best. And I'm like, I guess, but it feels like, yeah, I guess you're getting along the best, but it still just all feels like meh,
Yeah, they're having the most enjoyable experience, I would say, for having a wife swap. It's not, again, very entertaining to watch, but it's probably like enjoyable or at least bearable. Whereas Roxanne and Kat are about to have a tough time coming back from this.
And there's not like much romance going on any of their ends, but there's really not much romance. So if you don't have drama going on with the person, it's just like a couple friends living together, kind of trying to teach each other something, like a Disney Channel show or something like that. So I sometimes would zone out during some of this, but Ryan does seem happy that James probably misses her, and that's another thing that she got out of that scene. She said that they talked all night, her and Raya, and that's basically it. And we didn't see much of what they talked about even because their scene was really short, but I'm guessing just the same old, same old. And then we go back to James and Raya, and they talked about him not being open versus being open. And James is just confused. He's just confused by her because she's just kind of naive a little bit about intimacy. So she's very stuck on this holding hands thing. And she doesn't think he's been open at all with her, when I do think they've had a lot of good conversations that have been filmed. He's more looking for somebody to help him open up emotionally, and she's looking for somebody to help her open up physically. And I think that's why instantly she was like attracted to Brian and stuff like that. I think they would have been more physical with each other.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think a lot of people make an assumption about Trey and Raya that if they don't have that much of an emotional connection, they must have a big physical connection. But we learn when they get back together that they don't really have a physical connection either, which is why Raya is looking for that from
James.
James.
Anyways, so yeah, basically that's all that's there. She just kind of thinks that James wasn't open, so he robbed her of of the experience. And that's kind of all that you get out of their scenes. And you go back to like Roxanne and Antonio, and they have the emotional conversation while I assume Alex is sleeping in the other room because sometimes Antonio will randomly yell something like almost towards him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is he there?
At first I was wondering, like, is he trying to fight him? Because if Alex was in the other room, Antonio was screaming loud enough at certain points, calling him, like, cursing at him, I
Yeah.
think. I think he may have been trying to fight him, but I'm sure Alex, Mr. Level-headed, logical,
Yeah.
probably, had his headphones in, sleeping peacefully.
Yeah, then we go back to Ryan and Trey on the couch and with their dog Blanche, which for some reason Trey thinks he's the father of this dog just for being with it for 3 weeks when
He
this
does.
dog. They're just laughing about the pictures that they have on the fridge, how what they're gonna do with them. Like it's a lighthearted like goodbye conversation. And then she brings out these boxing gloves and she brings them out because she wants to have their first fight. And I thought that was the funniest part of any of
I
their
thought it was
scenes.
so cute. I like laughed out loud the first time I heard that. She goes, "I got these because I want to fight with you."
I think that was one of the funniest scenes in the entire season, and I thought it was so funny it was between them. Roxanne's in her TLC outfit number 2, and she's talking with Alex as he's packing, and she thinks that he's got these deep issues. And she's trying to pretty much convince him to apologize to her through apologizing to him. And she's over apologizing, and she keeps repeating the same thing like, I shouldn't have had that delivery, and I'm very sorry about my delivery on yesterday. I was yelling, and she wasn't yelling. I don't understand anything she was saying. She's like, I was yelling, and that wasn't me, and blah blah blah. And then Alex is like, okay.
Argument was nasty, like the words that they said to each other, but they weren't screaming at each other. It wasn't like aggressive. It was
He did like mimic her or mock her for a second, like, oh, I can't handle a
he did to her,
conversation.
but not her to
Yeah.
him. She really did just kind of sit there and say, they both said nasty things to each other. But
I don't think Roxanne apologized for the sake of anything other than to get an apology from him. To be honest, I just got mad that she was telling him that she was apologizing for her delivery.
yeah, it was a
So,
fake apology.
yeah, it was just an apology to get an apology, and she kept fishing for more. Like she'd be like, "Oh, like the tone of my voice, it was higher than it normally is, and I never get to that level.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry for that." And like waiting for him to say like, "I'm sorry too."
Finally, she just asks him. She's like, "Do you have anything you want to apologize
Yeah.
for?" He's like, "Nah,
Yeah,
I'm
he's
good."
like, "No, I think I handled myself pretty well. I was pretty collected. Like, I don't think it was that big of a deal or disagreement." And then she was not liking that answer. All of a sudden, Alex is just the worst person in the world now in her head. How
Yeah,
dare
he just
she?
gets up off the couch and he's like, "Well, got some packing to do."
Yep. Yep. He's just kind of like, "Yep, I'm ready to go back to Cat now."
See you
like,
later.
like this is exhausting.
Thanks for nothing.
Yep. Like, good working with you.
Good
You
work.
know, basically.
It was nice to be your CEO for a while.
Yes. Yes, I'll miss the luncheons. And
Mhm.
then so then we go back to Kat, who hasn't seen MGK pretty much since he left. I guess he didn't stay there that night on his air mattress. And he moved out when she went out for errands, so he kind of did a little slide out on her.
Yeah.
He does come back and he says that he had to leave early and he just can't do this anymore, and that he's basically just done with her until they switch back couples in a way. And she
Yeah,
was
which
just
is
kind of like,
hilarious because like they're switching right now.
yeah, they're just about to switch, so it made no sense. But maybe
Yeah.
this was filmed like 2 days before they switched. I don't know. And that's all they had of these people, so they threw it in here. But Kat's just kind of like, well, you kind of robbed me of this experience anyways. We weren't really getting to know each other. We really weren't doing anything. She was one of the ones that was truly robbed of the experience. Like I know Raya says she was robbed, but they at least had a lot of emotional conversations. and she got like a nice date out of it. Like MGK really didn't care about doing anything for Kat. He was there for Roxanne to change her mind about marriage. He wasn't there for anything else. Kat might have been, but MGK definitely wasn't for sure. So he wasn't even going to try to give her any type of experience. It didn't seem like she wanted that experience. Give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. She does accuse MGK of projecting their problems onto Alex and Kat. So
she does, yeah. And she defends, her relationship, I think, as much as she needs to in that conversation. But again, she's just not a fan of saying more than she needs to say. And I don't think she's going to go back and forth with Antonio about that. She's going to just say, nobody here has a reason to lie. We're all here for a reason. And this is what like 3 or 4 different people are telling you now about your relationship. Like, take it or leave it. I'm not going to say it 14 times.
And
like
what do people would. So then we actually get to the changeover, and I really didn't have much for this other than they do change over. Ryan and Trey talk about that they didn't have any fights and just how great it was. And the one thing that Trey does is he announces his feelings for Ryan, which was really weird to everybody, which was kind of awkward and weird. And Ryan's just kind of like, yeah, no reciprocation at all again, whatsoever. Even when she switches back with James, it's more about her relationship with James and how she wants it to change. But yeah, Trey puts it all out there, and Raya's foot just starts shaking.
Yeah, she goes. But you know what? That's the only indication for her that she's having a hard time. And obviously, you can tell that she's having a hard time. But she holds it together so well. I mean, she's like her foot is going kind of crazy on the bottom of the table there. But other than that, she can tell she's like breathing. She's taking it all in. She's not starting an argument.
But even when Raya and Trey go back to their shared space again, she's just still so mad about it, so she can't do anything.
Testing the emergency systems.
Raya's still mad at Trey for having feelings even when they get back. So that's basically what happens with those couples. They switch back, and it just seems like Ryan and James are just ready to get back to each other to see if they've really learned anything. And when it goes back to Alex and Kat and Roxanne and MGK, it's just a continuation of the night before's a little bit drama. And all of a sudden, Roxanne cannot stand Alex as far as she could throw him. And she thinks he's one of the worst people in the world. She cannot wait to get back to Antonio.
I'm so sorry about the siren.
Basically, Kat only brings up that MGK wasn't committed. And then, Roxanne's just upset about Alex. And she's saying that Alex said that Roxanne didn't give it a chance. And then Roxanne got real nasty. And that's when MGK said he was still upset about the night before. And Alex doubles down on what he said. He said, yeah, I don't think she respects you the way she talked about you. I don't think she respects you. And this parent text exchange gets brought up, and Vanessa Lachey just says, wow. So they just switch back, and that's all that really happens in that episode.
That's pretty much it.